Hello!
Hello AOS fans!
It's the agents of Harrow Deep.
And in this video we're looking at the rules, how they've changed, and little quirky bits we found.
Yeah. So Season 4 players, or Season 3, 2 or even 1 players out there, Season 5 now, Harrow Deep is upon us, and there are changes. GW have expanded their range of keywords, and we're going to go through the ones that we found that are obviously different than any other little rules tidbits. I remember back from when Season 2 came out and we discovered that when a fighter was raised, they kept all their upgrades finally.
Whoa.
That was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Have we got anything like that this time round?
It's fairly low key,
Yes.
but it is quite a high keyword. I will say, because I know we missed a couple in Diachasm last time, GW sent this to us on our recording day. So I've literally had like about 3 hours to look at it.
Yep.
And in that period of time, I also found a stray dog and had to sort that out. So, and built the models. So if I've missed anything, I apologise. It's a very quick look
covering
through.
this as best we can in the time we've got. So we're just going to bash through all the new things that we spotted and just quickly mention them to you. So hopefully you'll find it useful. So you might be wondering why this camera's just appeared in shot and then will disappear again in a moment. And that's because whilst we started to set up to play our very first ever game of Harrow Deep, we discovered 2 massive points.
Massive points,
Huge points.
Sorry.
So, and we figured we do actually have to mention these in our What's Different video because they're very different.
And if we didn't mention them, we'd look like idiots.
We would like massive tools.
And it is actually very like the things that I missed last time, which is I don't know what they were, but these are huge.
These are huge. So the first one is slightly less huge, but as you can see by the board here at the minute, we've placed all of our gloom hexes and things. Gloom hexes can go next to each other, unlike lethals, which is a point we did mention, but just worth reiterating. But one thing definitely worth mentioning is the fact that it doesn't say in the book anywhere that your 5th objective can go on a edge hex regardless. In previous seasons, even if there was plenty of space to put it, you could always put it on an edge hex, but no longer. No longer,
no. It does specifically say you can only put it on an edge hex if there's nowhere else to put it.
Yes. So that's the first one, and that is possibly the smaller of the 2 huge points.
But just as an addendum to that also includes the extra gloom token that you put down that isn't an objective hex. It can, as Pete said, it can go next to a feature token.
So you're never going to get a gloom hex on an edge hex, because it can always go somewhere else.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So the second point, which is much bigger,
huge,
and it only just came up when we were just picking our cards for our deck, for our hands as we started the game.
I thought, you know what, I better double check because it will look like a right pillock if we don't get the drawing of the cards right.
So you pick your cards and you sit there and you go, oh, my objectives are rubbish, or oh, my power cards are rubbish, and then you have your mulligans. You can either get rid of one, the other, or both. And then once you've got rid of one, the other, or both, you then redraw the cards that you need to replace them. But now there's another step.
It is when you've finished, when you've decided what you want to replace and you've redrawn, you can shuffle the old cards back into your deck.
So no longer do you sit and go, oh, those are all my 3rd end phase cards. I guess I'm just going to lose this game then.
Yeah.
You now shuffle them back in.
And you don't even shuffle them back in before you draw.
No, you shuffle them in afterwards, so you know you're not going to get them again.
You're not going to get your duff one.
Wow.
It's massive. That's really going to change the game, I think.
That's going to make...
It's certainly going to increase... I don't know. I think it'll make good decks more efficient.
And it means you can take a few more chances on 3rd end phase cards and stuff like that. You can go...
Risk, yeah.
So
good stuff. Whoa.
So we thought we'd add that one in, and then we're going to get back to our game. So Robin, what's one of the first things that you found?
Well, Pete, I think it bears repeating, because it is really important across this, that keywords are everything in this game. Everything has been codified to within an inch of its life.
Which is good, because GW were guilty of getting very woolly on their wording, and they would say things like, when someone should most become upon a figure with which, and
this was back in the 17th century version.
GW always used to be very wordy, so it's good that they're slapping more keywords.
I'm sure there are still plenty of words, but there are lots more keywords. And the first one is this new keyword it's not even really a keyword, it's called traits. So fighters now have traits. Not every fighter has a trait, but there are 4 traits.
And you might know some of them.
You've got your... Well, in fact, you'll probably know all of them. You've got your beasts.
You've got your beasts.
Your beast. This fighter cannot be given attack action upgrades or bound spell upgrades. All bound spell upgrades.
Ooh.
Don't know what they are. That's a new thing.
Bound spell upgrades.
Yeah. And I will say, I didn't find anything in that when I was looking through the cards. I still don't know what a bound spell upgrade is. And cannot hold objectives. I'm just going to reiterate that. So it's the same, basically... It's the same as
like most of your pets.
He's had a lot on all the pets, pretty much, apart from Riptooth.
Apart from Riptooth,
they can't hold. They can't be given attack They can't be given attack action upgrades. It's always really hard to say that.
Yep.
And they can't hold objectives.
Yeah.
And this new thing called bound spells. Ooh. There's flying, another trait.
Flying.
When making a move action, this fighter cannot be dealt damage by lethal hexes and can move through blocked hexes and occupied hexes.
Ooh.
This fighter must end its move action in an empty hex.
Oh, nice. So that means that all those cards that had all of that jibber jab on them now can just say this fighter gains the flying trait.
Yes, I wonder whether that means they'll give like the undead flying trait, the ghosties, because they don't strictly fly, but they have that trait. Interesting about that because it could affect how keywords work. I don't know. Yeah. Leader, which we know that's the crown, and wizard, which is the little sort of scepter, and they're the same. So that
they have no difference there. Yeah. So there we go. There are the traits. What's next, Robin?
Well, the next thing in the rulebook is decks. Now, as we know, the new introduction to this edition is the use of Grand Alliances. And there are 36 Grand Alliance cards in the box, and there's 9 of each, and there's three ploys, 3 upgrades, 3 objectives. Yep. And they can be given to any of the warbands that have the relevant Grand Alliance symbol. Not that many warbands at the moment actually have Grand Alliance symbols on them. 2
of them, in fact.
2 or 4. 4 because the ones from the starter set do. So Dreepers, Creepers, and both Stormcast warbands and the Cruel Boys are the only ones with Grand Alliance specific symbols on them. So at the moment we don't have a Chaos one.
No.
But it does say very specifically in the rulebook, some older warbands do not have Grand Alliance symbol on their cards. To find out which Grand Alliance these warbands belong to, visit warhammerunderworlds.com. So they are going to be retroactively fitting them to the old warbands, which I kind of expected because it was going to get all sorts of arguments, because most people who play this game play Warhammer and they know what the
even if some of them don't quite make sense, like the Blade Coven are order.
Hot.
But there you go.
My worry is that warhammerunderworlds.com tends to lag
massively,
sometimes eons behind the rest of us, and that's going to be an issue for people playing tournaments and whatever. I mean, Games Workshop are notoriously bad at keeping that up to date. Theoretically,
they could have that written and on that website now ready to go. Whether they will or not, we'll have to find out.
But it's like when I suppose every new warband, I suppose, will have it added.
Exactly. So they only need
they need to make sure it's joined up. Otherwise, there's going to be some unhappy people who can't play dwarfs.
Definitely, yeah.
So that's it really. So basically, you just a slightly different flavour of card to add into your decks. The cards themselves, they've had a bit of an overhaul. They've got some backs, which I don't particularly.
Is all I can say.
I don't really see the need to have changed those, but they are changed. Everybody knew that was changed. They have changed them.
They kind of look like really gaudy, overly expensive designer.
They do
handbags.
a bit, don't they? Do a bit. It does actually.
There's a bit like a sort of a Yves Saint Laurent kind of
Louis
vibe
Vuitton. I'm trying to think of a Chaos. Like I can't think of any.
Yeah, they look cheap.
Louis Vuitton.
They look.
No, somebody else.
they looked better before, but anyway, that's that. And
so I don't know why they've changed those, but the layout's changed.
Yeah. But the layout itself, we've seen from the 2-player start set and from the Essentials pack of cards, we've seen this layout already. So that's nothing new there.
Yeah. Looking at the boards, they're largely the same. So we've commented on them being a lovely blue colour in the unboxing video. They're mostly the same. So there's it's got definitions are here for incomplete hexes, starting hexes, blocked hexes, and that's all the same. We haven't got a blocked hex on here. Lethal hexes, but there's a new one.
Ooh.
The cover hex.
The cover hex.
The cover hex. And it's really simple. We had all sorts of exciting ideas of what this might be, and I think somebody did say this for the cover hex. It's basically the same as the Gloom tokens, which we'll cover in a minute. But the cover hex is a fighter on a cover hex considers rolls of double supports a success in their defence rolls.
Pretty disappointed by that, but never mind. It's what it is.
It adds up some tactical interest, and it means if you can get single supports and you get double supports as well, that's pretty nifty. I'm perhaps slightly concerned there's only cover hexes on one board.
Yeah, only one board has 2 hexes on, which is a bit but there you go.
But they must have had a reason for doing it that way, but that's how they've done it. Everything else is the same. Placing boards are the same, roll-offs are the same. They haven't changed.
There is one interesting thing about how now you place gloom counters and objective tiles.
It's quite a big change. It's probably the biggest change in the game, because in the olden days you get your numbered hexes and you place them face down and then you
just turn them over, and then you place your then you take your cards, then you place your models.
Yeah. So now you the sequence is the same, but so whoever put the
Whoever puts the board down first, they get
Three.
three tiles.
3 tiles.
The opponent gets to place the orientation of the boards, and they get 2 tiles.
That's right. But you, instead of like having them just as a random stack, you basically shuffle them, keep them face down, so
Yeah.
keep the gloom side down, which doesn't have the numbers on, and then one person gets 3 and the other person gets 2.
Yeah, and you take those.
Take those, look at them.
You can look at them.
Yeah, you can look at them, and then you put them down, taking in turns person with 3 going first, and you can put them where you
But you
like.
place them face down.
But you place them face down.
Yeah, so you know what's going on your side of the board, but your opponent hasn't got a clue.
No, he doesn't know which 3 you have, so he has some inkling as to where things might be.
Unless he's very stupid and he can't work it out.
I would forget. And in the game, they will be flipped to objective side. So objectives aren't dead; they can still be used, and they can be flipped in the game. And they basically take a instead of playing a power card, you can, if you're standing on a feature token or a gloom token, you can flip it over.
Yep. So you could theoretically, if you move everybody onto objectives in your first activation, you could then flip all 3 of those objectives over.
Yes.
Or you could stand on them, and because the gloom tokens give you that double assist save boost, you could stand on those objectives until the end of the round, and in the very last power step, you could then flip them all over.
You could, absolutely.
Because your opponent might say, I haven't got anything to play, and you flip one, and they say, I've still got nothing, and then you flip the next one. There's no limit there to how many you can flip over.
It's quite interesting, that, I think.
That takes objectives for me from being something which I thought was going to be dead to actually objectives might not be too bad.
Absolutely, I'm sort of intrigued by that.
And it is worth mentioning again. We did mention it earlier, but there's no more placing of lethal tiles.
Yes.
There are no more lethal hexes other than the ones already on the board.
And then at the end of that, once all the objectives have been placed or gloom tokens have been placed, you can place there are still double-sided gloom tokens which don't have an objective on, but it says you have to place those at the end.
Yeah,
I
so
guess,
it's not like
I guess
you can
nobody
take you
would
through.
know, but it does say that you have to place the ones at the end, and they're double-sided, so they're not an objective.
Yeah, so you can't shuffle that one into your pack of 3,
No.
and then your opponent doesn't know which ones are the objectives. It's obvious because it's the last one they play.
No, it does say you can't.
You can't.
Yeah.
So there's no lethals.
Or
but there
can you?
No, you can't. Fair enough. No, sorry. So there we go. No more lethals, but more gloom hexes. So more chances to get boons to your save.
Yes, I mean this board will be chocker. So drawing cards is largely the same.
Yep.
But there is a new keyword here. It's mentioned here. I don't think it actually really applies in the drawing cards section, but maybe it's just telling you about it. And that is broken.
Broken.
It's a new thing, I think. Sometimes a rule will tell you to break an upgrade.
Ooh.
Or say that an upgrade is broken. This only affects upgrades that have been given to a fighter, so an upgrade in your hand cannot be broken. When an upgrade is broken, it is placed face up in the power discard pile of the player that owns that card.
So they're just making it a bit more obvious what happened. What does that? They're saying this card is now this upgrade is now broken, rather than before it would say things like discard this card or remove this card, and there were 101 ways of saying put it in your discard pile. Now they've just made
it's broken, so it goes in there, and you can return broken. There is ways of returning broken cards back to places, I believe. But yeah, so that is a new keyword, broken.
Broken.
They've codified in a nice diagram now the steps of a turn. So you've got your activation step and your power step. That's the same.
Power step.
But now each player's turn also includes a number of minor steps, reaction steps, inspire steps, and surge steps. Now these were kind of in the rules. It's not any different.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was quite as blatantly
It wasn't
put out. Reaction steps even got its own little lightning symbol to go with it. So basically,
so you have your activation step, your reaction step, your inspire step, your surge step, and then you have your power step.
Yeah, and then you have a reaction step, inspire step, and surge step to go in with your power step.
It's nice to have that in there. One thing I have already noticed is there's no mention whatsoever of primacy.
There is no mention anywhere in this rule book of primacy. We will come on to keywords, but primacy is not in the book.
Dead.
Yeah, it's dead to Harrowdeep. Didn't come with them.
No. So as everyone's probably already aware, but just in case you're not, there is a small change to the tokens encounters.
Yes, so guard tokens are now double-sided, and they are now guard and stagger tokens.
Oh.
Which doesn't mean fighters have come home late from the pub.
Nope.
It means that there are various ways to trigger them being given a stagger, but it means that when they're attacked, the opponents can make a re-roll when they attack you.
Yep. And they also remove, if they have a guard token, they remove the guard token when they're staggered.
Yeah, very good
you
point.
can just flip that token, which is nice and easy. Another thing which is worth noticing is the wound tokens themselves now have a green and a yellow back to them. So a bit like we had the blue and the white gems in the previous season, we now have a green.
Pretty much
yellow.
so. They are just generic tokens.
Yeah.
Stagger is another keyword.
Yeah,
So,
and we will go with that. We have just covered that pretty much, but yeah, you go.
Damage is the same. It does codify who causes the damage. So, like if an attack action of a fighter, it's the fighter. If it's spells, it's the wizard. Counts as causing it.
Yeah.
If it's a card, it's your warband.
Yeah.
And if it's a lethal hex, it's the lethal hex. I think we kind of all knew that, but it's there in black and white.
It's written down. It wasn't written down in such specific detail before, but it is now. So there's no problem with that.
Yep, and then out of action, again, it kind of a bit more codified when the fighter is taken out of action. So you take them off the battlefield, clear all their tokens from the battlefield and all their counters from their fighter card, but it says you do not break the fighter's upgrades.
So it's interesting because some people asked things before about, do I lose this token or that token because they weren't wound tokens, but it's like, no, you get rid of everything now.
It even says, no, these tokens and counters are not said to be removed. Because you occasionally get some clever chap saying, it says when I remove 3 wound tokens, I can score this objective. It's like,
so when I died, I'm removing those tokens. No, you're not.
No, you're not. As it actually says now that you're not. There is two new keywords in this little bit of rules.
2.
Bounty.
Bounty, please.
Bounty. It's not a chocolate bar.
Oh.
It's not a club for new people with newborn babies, and it's not kitchen towel.
No.
It is basically what we say when we score a glory.
Yeah.
That is the bounty. So it seems a slightly odd keyword to me, but I guess a keyword it means what it means. It's a keyword. So yeah.
Again, you'll get cards which says something like, you pick a fighter, the bounty on that fighter is increased by 1. So then you know, if I kill them, I'll get 2 glory. And so you know in what situations you get that
2
bounty.
Bounties. You get one of those double ones in the double pack.
Yeah, I love it. I love bounties. So you and there is how the channel got split and we went on separate ways. No,
that's all right. It's much better. You get all the bounties. Yeah. I will just say that the 6+ wound extra bounty, extra glory bounty is still there.
Yeah, you still get 2.
The most forgotten rule in the game, possibly.
Yeah.
And then the next new keyword is vulnerable.
Very vulnerable.
Vulnerable, yes. A totally new rule in the game. But when you're vulnerable, if you're down to 1 wound
left,
you're now
basically.
vulnerable. What it says is, so they would be taken out of action if they were dealt 1 damage.
Yeah, so basically you've got 1 wound left, then you're vulnerable.
Yes.
And that's it. There is no other rule. That's just if you only have 1 wound left, you're vulnerable.
Yeah,
but there'll be things in there to say, if you take out a vulnerable fighter, the bounty is increased by 1 or something like that, maybe, for example.
Exactly that kind of thing. We've got some attack action keywords. They're largely the same. Cleave, ensnare. But we do have Grievous. If an attack action has the Grievous keyword on a critical hit, that attack action has +1 damage. We have seen that kind of rule over and over again, but now it is codified.
Yeah, lots of places where it's like, if you get a critical hit or if you do this, and it's just written over and over again on the fighter's cards, but you don't need that now.
No, Scything and Knockback are the same, and but then we have Stagger. You can get multiple Stagger tokens, but you only get to reroll 1 dice.
Just like you can get multiple guard tokens, basically.
Yeah, you don't get like, you've got 2 Stagger tokens, so I can roll 2 dice. That's not how it works.
It's also worth pointing out that when you are staggered, if you have multiple guard tokens, so there are some situations where you can end up with 1 or more, you lose them all. So there's no point in stacking them to try and outdo that one.
Outdo the Stagger. Power Step, play a card, and then we have another new keyword.
Ooh.
Delve.
Which
is basically what we've already talked about, but it's got its own keyword. In place of playing a power card, a player can instead delve by flipping 1 feature token. If a friendly fighter is on that feature if a friendly fighter is on that feature token, each player can only delve each feature token once in each power step.
So you could, if you've got 3 fighters on 3 objective tokens at the end of the round, in that very last power step, you could then flip all 3. But then if your opponent were to confuse 2 of the fighters and put one of their fighters on, they could then flip it back again with a delve.
They could, yes.
And even if you could get back onto it again, you can't delve it again. There you go.
It is each player, not each fighter. So not like if you can get a different fighter on there. Everything else is pretty much the same. Scatter's the same.
Modifying characteristics and re-rolls and stuff.
Reactions are the same. They're still the most complicated bit of the game when you can react or not, but they have done their level best to give you a lovely table, which, to be honest, if you're not playing, is absolutely, even if you know it, is absolutely
still looks
brain melting.
It looks mental, and I've been playing this game for 3 years, 4 years.
But it is there codified. It talks about different types of reactions, so fighter card reaction, upgrade reactions, deploy reactions. No changes there, just kind of clear.
And it also has a reacting to a reaction. Obviously, it mentions about how a game is on hold when there's a reaction in play.
Yep. And then you've got the end phase. It talks about the various objective card types, hybrid, but they haven't changed. So Surge.
Yeah, Surge, Duel, and all that stuff.
Yeah, so there's nothing really different there.
So that's pretty much it in the main rules section. There is no other changes in there. It covers like your multiplayer games and how bounty is different in that situation, but none of it's surprising, new, or shocking in any way.
But then you have got 3 pages of terms.
I like that. I like having lots in there. It's easy to look up quickly when you've got a card and you're like, what does that mean again? You go to the glossary and it's just all detailed for you. Most of it you know anyway.
It is good, but they're not all here, and that drives me potty.
It is. It's possibly worth us going through the ones that aren't there first, just so people are aware up front. If they're sitting there waiting to hear about Primacy, it's not in there.
Primacy look under P, not there. I've kind of gone through a list, and we've obviously gone through the ones that are in the rule book. We've gone through, so they're codified. So we've got. I'll just quickly run through them. We've got Grievous, Bounty, Stagger, Vulnerable, Broken, Delve, Beast, and I think that's it. I think they're all. That is all the things that are. But I've been through the cards, and I found some other keywords that aren't referenced, and they'll have interactions in the game, and some of them we don't know what they are yet.
No.
But so there's other keywords, and these are the ones I found, Pete. I shall let you know what they are. Okay. So we know there's a raise mechanic. We've got raise tokens. Raise not mentioned in the glossary. The Hunter keyword is mentioned on some cards. So Hunter Quarry was a big mechanism in Diachasm and Beastgrave, and it's still around. I will say I haven't found any new Quarry cards yet. The orcs, some of the orcs are minions, and certain things interact with the minions. Some upgrades are illusions, and these are the free upgrades. They did talk about that in a Warhammer community site, but they're basically free upgrades that you can play, and they only last for a certain amount of time, but they just are free to play.
And some of them aren't. They're not all universal only. It's not like when you had the Amberbone weapons and stuff. They're not universal cards. Some of them are warband specific as well.
Warband specific cards.
They're basically 0 glory upgrades that only last a round.
Yeah. Other keywords I found the Brawler keyword. I think I found that mainly on the Stormcast, but maybe I hadn't checked the Grawl Boys actually, but yes. And there are various things. If your fighter's a Brawler, you get extra something or others. There's a Companion, which there's a Companion keyword, so I think it's like Olo and Grawl specifically. And so you can do again. You can you can push X hexes, but if they're a Companion, you can push. X +1 or whatever. So that's a new Companion keyword.
It's worth pointing out there isn't anything new in here to cover Olo and Grawl. It's just a theoretical thing.
That was a theoretical. I guess the Bird and Storm, whatever he's called, in this game is they're companions. I don't know why I went back to Olo and Grawl. Probably because there used to be a card where you could push him a long way. There's a waypoint keyword, which is on a certain type of card is a waypoint. Assassin comes up quite a lot of times, and there is one card to make a fighter an assassin. Subtly different from a hunter.
A regular fighter.
From a hunter. There is, I found Denizens. I found Maneuver. And I found Mutation. Mutation is literally like a old styley chaos mutation. Maneuver is like a kind of, I can't exactly remember what it is, but it is what it says. It's like
a maneuver of some kind.
You do X and Y, and you get.
So it's a bit like a charge or something, but it's a bit more fancy or something.
Yeah. There are a mention of devotion tokens, but only on one card only, so I don't know what they are. I think that's it.
So that's possibly most of what we've got there.
That's a number of keywords.
A lot of new things
to wonder about,
and a lot of those things might be a lot like when we had poisons, or when we had the metalliths.
Yeah, a waypoint. Really feel like is like a metallith type thing.
It could be those kind of things where, or there was the lost pages.
Yeah.
So it could just be that they've got a keyword to tie a few upgrades together for something potentially, or something like that. They might not have a great and far-reaching effect on things. So I'm assuming that assassins are people that gain some kind of benefit when attacking a leader or something like that.
Yes,
maybe.
I think so. Yeah.
That's everything we found that's new and improved and different and not scary in this version. If you have spotted something once you've got your version of the rules and you're reading through it and you spot something we've missed, do let us know in the comments below. If you haven't yet, please do like and subscribe, ring the bell, thumbs up, all that good stuff. It really does help us, and if you do ring that bell, then you will see more of our content in the future as we produce it.
And that will include a brand new Harrow Deep Battle Report.
Yes, we're going to be crashing onto that one very shortly.
Yeah.
So we'll see you soon in Harrow Deep.
Bye.